So it goes.
Okay, Jody started the recording. I'm calling the July 18th, 2022 Board of Trustees meeting to order at 7:30. So the first thing I need to do is do a roll call. Jody has asked that we start doing that. So Carolyn Greenwald.
Here.
Susan Ainsley.
Here.
Jeff. Here. And Pat O'Rourke.
Yeah.
Okay, and I am here, obviously. So that's it. Okay, our next item of business tonight is public comment period. I see that we have some visitors in the room. Does anyone have a public comment they would like to make?
Yes, please.
Okay, if you would, please state your name and your address.
Sure.
And the others too, because we like to track who is in the room with us.
Okay.
You could.
Kip Saracero. I live at 150 Graham Road. My wife Angela, my daughter Ada, my son Jude, and my other son Roman.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. So I'm here to speak before the Board of Trustees. And my main point of concern is the apartment complex on Graham Road, specifically University Apartments. As you may be aware, it is a increasingly growing concern of everyone that lives in the village, especially those on Graham and surrounding streets. And so I'm here to talk about my experiences as a homeowner living next door and how it's been impacting our day-to-day lives, and just asking questions about what can be done, what has been done, and how do we proceed where we can improve the quality of life for everybody involved, homeowners and the residents of the apartment. But first, I want to just take a moment to acknowledge the support that Mayor Hardaway and Legislator Dawson have provided me in terms of connecting me with the Sheriff's Department, connecting me with DSS at the county level, listening to my concerns. It's very important that we have that connection. And so I just want to acknowledge their efforts in supporting us. Where my frustration comes in, though, is the appearance or the perceived lack of action that is that we're facing with this apartment. It's been many, many years in the making. And the crime has gone up. The daily visits of law enforcement have gone up. The type of crime has changed quite a bit. And so I would just like some sort of action. What is on the table? What's off the table? If it's bad policy, let's work to change it. If it needs to be amended, let's do something about it. The time for action is now. And I want to hold everyone accountable and our elected leaders accountable for the current state that it's in, because it's deplorable. The poor people that are living in that apartment, they're facing just untold potential violations. I don't know if there are specifics, but I know that there's been a constant smoke detector that's been beeping for a number of days, if not weeks now. So that may be in need of servicing. You go online and read reviews, and you can see that the people that have been living there are living with mold. They're living with filth. The building itself is falling apart. Garbage everywhere. Shopping carts, not to mention needles that have been found on my property and the adjacent property to mine, the church. So these are just some of the things that we have experienced over, past few years, and it's getting a lot worse. So the point of me being here is just to bring it to everyone's attention, if it wasn't there already, and demand some sort of action. And the time is now. whether it needs to be at the state level, the county level, or right here, changing code policy, we need something done, and we need it done fast as government can work. I know it's not easy, but we're all here for a common purpose, and that's to improve the quality of life for the village and the residents of Graham Road and the surrounding areas. Just to kind of give you some anecdotal stories about my family's experience, being next door, verbal harassment in our own backyard. Easter Sunday, we're, just in our backyard, minding our own business, and we're getting harassed, It's not a pleasant thing to be, subjected to that without having prompted any type of, provocation. And just a few weeks ago, I come home, I noticed strange, luggage and other random objects on my property. So I naturally go over and start looking at it. And then from up the road, I hear someone screaming at me, and I step away. I go to the sidewalk to get a better look, and there's a group of people walking up, swearing, cursing me out. As they get closer, they start making threats to me, all while my children and family are watching, threatening me. They know where I live. And afterwards, I have to explain to my family why this is happening. Why am I being threatened on my own property? And so it's gone to the point where it's totally not acceptable to have this continue to happen. And I don't know what the answer is, but we demand action. We demand some sort of accountability, either by the landlord. We need someone, law enforcement, if they can't arrest people, then where does the responsibility go to? If it's catch and release, who's held responsible anymore? It's not okay for this to continue to happen. And it's just ongoing. I don't know how else to explain it. Frustrations are high, very high. I'm coming here to talk things out, see where we can go from here. I have other neighbors that couldn't make it again today because of work obligations and other reasons, but I know that it's very much on their radar. And I want to assure them, when I see them again, that something can be done, that something will be done. If it needs to go to the state level and speak to our state legislators, then let's do it. I'm all for it. Let's roll up our sleeves. Let's get it done. The time for emotional support is over. It's time for real tangible action. Anything else? Do you have anything else?
Well, just to add to the anecdotal stories, these kids, growing up, we had a neighborhood, we could ride our bikes. These kids can't ride their bikes in the neighborhood. They can't ride their bikes because of broken glass, because of going into the church parking lot. They were riding bikes there, and there's people stashing like stolen items. The sheriffs were out looking at it and saying, this is like the wires and bike parts and drugs, and they're stashed all over our property and the church property. The kids don't know better. They'll go over and pick stuff up. There's broken glass, there's needles. So I can't let them play in their own neighborhood. And it just feels like our area keeps getting smaller and smaller, in which they're allowed to, play freely.
So, I appreciate the opportunity to speak before you today. And I hope that my words have been impactful and that have resonated with everyone here, and that we can come to some sort of understanding where we can go from here. Because I believe that there can be action, there can be something done. I will not accept that it's a county thing or it's a state thing. That we have to understand that it's a broken system and that needs to be fixed. Thank you.
Can I ask a follow-up question? Were you going to comment on?
No, I was just going to thank Mr. Saracero for coming in and your family. I appreciate them being here. I have some comments, but go ahead, Carol.
I wanted to know if you had any comments.
The issue that you're having is difficult, and I sympathize. When I was in college, I lived in areas where I had similar problems, and it was very frustrating, and the problem only seems to have gotten worse. Unfortunately, we can follow our current code and we can cite property owners for the problems within their property. If they resolve the issues raised by those citations to the minimum, then the clock starts all over again. If they change the smoke alarm, if they pick up the needles, if they call the police for an incident, there's only so much that we can do as a village. I agree with you that the system is broken. It needs to go up to the state level. The state level, they worry more about New York City than they do the rest of the state. So we can contact our state representatives and say, look, it's not just our village, by the way. It's there are many places within the county that this is happening. We need help. What can we do? We're basically doing a catch and release, almost immediate release. We're not incarcerating people. What do we do? Because we don't have the authority. We don't even have the police force within the village to do that. We have to rely on the county sheriff or the state police to do the work. And their hands are full most of the time. We get good response from the county sheriff's department because they do understand and they do the best they can too. But there's only so much they can do within the law. Once a person is arrested, if there's no reason to keep them in jail because they don't appear to be a threat to anyone or to themselves, they can post bail and they can leave. So all I can tell you is we will continue to try to solve this. I wish it was an easy solution and a fast solution for you and your family. It's basically for our village to get a good and fast solution. And I hope we will continue to work on it, Kip. And as we get more information or suggestions, I might contact you and say, can you participate in this conversation and let people know? And if any of your neighbors are willing to participate also, that would be good too. On the ground input helps clarify the situation and its importance to you and your family. And that's all I can tell you right now. I wish I could snap my fingers and make it all go away. I would. I'd snap more than one finger. But as I've said to you in emails, we are restrained by what we can do.
That's where the frustration comes in, honestly, because how do we change that? So we're not constrained by bad policy or ineffective policy. Where do we go from there? And that's my frustration.
Right. I understand.
I want to know answers. I want to know how to change things. And I'd be willing to go wherever it needs to go to try to affect change because it's gone long enough.
I agree.
So maybe we can have a conversation, outside of this board meeting, where everything is on the table, figure something out. I want to be part of that discussion,
right,
and provide input where I can and be part of that discussion. I very much be appreciative of that. And
good.
I want it to be positive and constructive, but yet it's frustrating because I hear answers like that it's not always something you want to hear.
No.
I'm a reasonable person and I know things take a while, but where would we be if we just accepted policy as is, as a country, as a state, as a municipality? If we accepted that as is, I mean, things would be far worse. So let's fight the good fight and get something done.
Where's Mike in terms of, since Kip came to the planning board? Has Mike been out there and have anything, has there been any movement in the last week and a half?
The only thing that I'm aware of is that Mike did go out onto the 134 Graham Road property and investigate trespassers who were basically encamped within a laundry room on the apartment complex. There were broken windows and there were sleeping bags on the floor. And he just confirmed that. With that, he was going to write a citation to the property owner to take care of the window, remove the people from the building or have them removed. And that's the last I've heard. I haven't heard anymore.
Okay, so we should follow up with Mike and see where he is with that.
I think at our other meeting, he hadn't heard anything, had he?
No,
At lunchtime.
no, it was too early.
Can we get any representative from the state to come to one of our meetings?
We can try. Yeah,
I
absolutely.
mean, and would they be willing to go see some of what's going on?
That could be part of the request, is to have them to come and see. I think that if they come here at our request, they're probably going to visit more places within the county too. So they wouldn't spend all day, in other words, there, but they would spend some time. That's the nature of state positions.
What about just a conversation, asking the landlord to come in person and have a meeting? I mean, that seems like it would be faster and more effective than trying to do some sort of like.
I agree.
Much-
Why not start somewhere simple?
Yeah, just with a conversation saying, these are the issues we're having. This is
You
your
want your
property.
legacy to be a building that, is causing a community concern, and how do we simplify it and rectify it in the most basic sense? And that's contacting the landlord.
So can we start with that and set up a meeting to ask them, the board of trustees would like to meet with the landlord and the homeowners and the surrounding neighbors rather?
You can ask, but they're under no obligation to come in.
Right, but I mean, I guess we can also mention the fact that the citations are gonna continue.
Yeah, the issue with the citations, as the mayor mentioned, that to any extent they comply, our enforcement goes away and Mike has to go back and keep inspecting and keep citing. It's when they fail to remedy an issue in a citation, then more options become open, such as financial penalty and pursuing.
I mean, I think we should draft a letter to them to that effect, saying,
But it appears and seems, and I'll confirm with Mike, that they are complying to some extent with the citations.
Right.
When they're.
even if that's true, I think a letter mentioning we see their potential for future citations and potential for future non-compliance, should it become out of hand, maybe we should sit down and have a conversation, something worded in a friendly way, like, we don't want you to get penalized, so let's come together and talk about it. I mean, I think talking to them in person
Yeah.
would be the most effective, fastest thing that we can do.
To try at least. I
To
don't,
ask.
whether they
No.
come, it would be, that's something else. But we can at least try.
Anybody know the owners?
Mike, I'm sure, yeah.
It's Pitchell,
It's who?
Pitchell.
Mike Pitchell.
Mike
He's a
Pitchell.
lawyer in town.
We've had trouble with him in the past for garbage and other.
Natalie, maybe you have a friend who has a friend?
I will ask, but I've never
It's a
heard.
small town,
And I'm new to it.
very small town.
I will see if I know anybody.
Definitely somebody is friendly with this lawyer who we know.
Well, we can pursue that. We can pursue that avenue and we can pursue getting some state help. I think that I'm almost certain that Deborah and the county have connections into the state side. If we can get the legislature to kind of get behind having them come in and inspect. But when we do that, I'm going to push to have them come and see this because, the Ithaca, for instance, has a police department. But there are a lot of municipalities around here that don't, and they're the ones that homeless problems or drug problems, mental health problems are hard to enforce.
I would suggest pursuing both paths.
No, that's, yeah, in parallel. Because it would take a while to get any kind of state response, especially I think at least one of our representatives is down with COVID right at the moment. But it won't hurt to try.
Okay, so
I am here on the same subject matter. I just didn't want to end up short circuiting things by you not knowing that if you'd like me.
Absolutely. If you would like to make a public comment, just step up and give us your name and address, please.
Stephen Felker. And I'm here in two capacities, actually. I'm a resident of the village of Lansing, had the good fortune of finally getting to move here a couple of years ago. I'm the crazy person rehabbing the property at 67 Bush Lane.
Oh.
There it is. She knows what I talk about now.
That's one of my shortcuts historically, you know.
I am also the senior pastor at Christ Chapel, the church at 160 Graham Road. And so
I thought that I recognized.
Kip and I have dialogued as neighbors, and hopefully we can build friendships around more than the problems. I have been senior pastor of Christ Chapel for over 20 years. These issues are over 20 years old. I have chased the management over there. So their dumpster sits at the property line. And we are chronically dealing with overflow from the dumpsters into our property. That hedgerow belongs to the church. Their property line is the edge of their parking lot, if you need to know where the stakes are.
Okay.
So we are chronically, and have been chronically dealing with for 20 years, pursuing them to clean up the mess. It gets semi-cleaned up and then it's just right back to the same thing. It's just being, I've dead rats in the parking lot. I mean, the remedy is simply to increase the percentage of that, or the number of times that the dumpsters are empty. But it's cheaper to just let them overflow and be picked up perhaps once a month instead of twice a month, which would serve the residents with a far more healthy environment and might actually contain all the trash. They've got mammothly tall dumpsters. Imagine that you have to throw your trash through the middle tier windows there to get it into the dumpster. And there's a number of disabled residents in those apartments. I have parishioners in those apartments. I watch people drag their trash out there and lamely, the best they're physically able to, try and launch their bags up in, and they hit about halfway up and then just lay in front as these people head back to their apartment. This is how this place is being run. I think maybe Mike needs to go after it much more aggressively as a codes inspector, and perhaps Brian should be stepping in with him as a fire inspector. One of my elders is a retired City of Ithaca building inspector. We went in to see one of the parishioners, and we weren't off the first floor when he looked at me and said, "Man, I could write a book of tickets on this place." Perhaps it needs to be inspected more than once a year. I think your codes people can do more than they're doing. Mike, I forget Mike's predecessor on codes, all the way back to Ben. I've worked with about all your codes inspectors on this to functionally no effect on these things. And I can say that in the last year to 2 years, things have degraded way more, quite substantially. I also am lost count of the years now, over 15 years, firefighter with Q Guides. I've been in those apartments putting out the meth lab. Okay, that's the neighborhood. That's what it's becoming. That's unacceptable. Took the family from the apartment above that meth lab and gave them shelter at the church because it was unpleasant weather till the Red Cross could get with them. I mean, we shouldn't be having to deal with this. And I think there's some things, and getting after the owner. I think public shaming of the owner might be in order. Start cataloging the problems and put them in print with his name attached. That's the kind of stuff that's probably going to get you action because he knows the problems. He knows the issues. These are not mysteries to him. My building inspector person has talked with him. Public shaming is probably the next step at this point. Attach that name to slumlord, and that might get something moved a little bit. I don't know. I appreciate that those apartments give housing to people who haven't got much means. You know, folks who are being cared for their who are under mental health care. Some of them are part of our church. Folks with physical disabilities, some of them don't have resources. They're part of our church, part of our congregation, our family. Instead, I'm sitting here instead of helping them where I could in the thick of working on installing thousands of dollars of security cameras. I shouldn't have to do that. That's not how I want to spend money. It's not how the church wants to spend its resources. We've been active with the Second Wind Housing for the Homeless. We've been active with the food pantries and the Salvation Army. We've got deep financial commitments with those groups. To siphon money off for something like this is appalling, and it just shouldn't be. I am routinely picking up needles out of the yard of the church in the places where children play, not just Kip's kids. Kids from the apartments come over, families come over and picnic on our lawns. We welcome that. We want people to come and be able to use and to enjoy the property. Instead, I'm getting to be on a first name basis with the sheriff's deputies. They are in at least once, if not twice a week on my phone call to come collect more needles, to roust out a homeless encampment, which is not allowed to be there. I find stolen merchandise, call them in to go through it and determine if any of this might be evidence that they can track down and use. I found broken, cracked safes in the back of our parking lot. Some business lost their stuff. I get to see the computer dispatch stuff from our dispatch center when I'm at the firehouse. Regularly, I'm seeing the sheriff's department is here for criminal mischief at the construction area over in the alcohol and drug center, or the construction over in the new Aldi's or Dick's or Tops for theft and those kinds of things. And it's all imported into our community. Fostered by policies in the city of Ithaca and Tompkins County, and imported in here from elsewhere, frankly, by DSS. I think you have an option. If the Econo Lodge is being used in an extended stay, there may be some zoning options to take that option away. Shouldn't an extended stay room have cooking facilities in it, refrigeration facilities in it? Stuff the Homewood Suites has in their extended stay units. The Econo Lodge doesn't have that. And yet they're using it as an extended stay for people. And, we have worked with people over in the Econo Lodge as well, trying to help them turn some things around and move some things forward. But the people in power who are moving these people into these places are doing so, as Kip said, without accountability, without any follow-up, without assuming the responsibility for where they are putting people and what they're doing with these people. And these people deserve better from the folks in the county level at DSS who are shuffling them around, and they're not getting it. And as I said, in our area, in our neighborhood, it's just deteriorated terribly. I talked to the sheriff's deputies. Yeah, the village of Lansing has really gone downhill. I haven't met the deputy yet who hasn't said that about our village. Is that a reputation we want? Is that a reputation you want as trustees? And so I would like to hear that you're going to start pressing DSS about what they're doing to these people and about the kinds of services they aren't providing and the direction they aren't providing, that you're going to press our state legislatures against catch and release, which is terribly demoralizing. Basic anecdote. I'll not name him because I know we're in a public space. But I met the guy, but I used to call them the hedgerow boys. There was a group of guys that would just camp out on the church property through the day. It's like, if you want to come and join us, that's great. Clean up after yourself when you're done. And one, I noticed he was sitting there with a pair of bolt cutters in his lap. You don't usually camp out with bolt cutters. And that's not how you trim your fingernails. And got his name, got chatting with him. A little later on, I find he and girlfriend and all of their worldly possessions on tarps spread out in the woods in the back of the church. Guys, what's going on? We had a housing mishap. You have to work in this county to get yourself evicted. That was not a housing mishap by any stretch. And I said, you cannot stay here. There's no camping overnight. This has to be out. It wasn't. I had an obligation that took me out past after dark. And so I asked the sheriff to go check that out. They went, checked it out. This gentleman took off and allowed even the girl to deal with the mess the next morning. This was our vacation Bible school season. So I had what proved to be about 50 kids coming to the church the next morning at 9 o'clock. They finally got stuff cleared out about 8:30 a.m. She did with a friend. The guy took off. But I'm finding stolen goods stashed in the hedges of the church. I think this guy upgraded from the bolt cutters because I found them later and confiscated them. I have them locked away. He's now got a battery operated Sawzall, I think, because somebody else ticked him off. I found their bicycle in our hedge cut in two right down through the frame. This is the kind of dynamic we are living in the village. This is their next door neighborhood. And it's just completely unacceptable. So with Kip, I'm asking you to take it seriously and to spend some time making the phone calls that need to be made to the powers that be, whether it be Tompkins County and whether it be Albany, to start pressing this stuff. Bolt cutter boy, when I finally got talking with the sheriff about him, we had to go through some aliases because I had an alias, not his real name. The sheriff finally figured out what he was. He said, oh yeah, he's been arrested. I'm like, is he behind bars or is he out on the loose? He's like, oh, it's catch and release. That explains why the trouble just kept perpetuating. So, it's state police, getting to know them. It's the deputies I'd rather get to know them in other circumstances. And this is the village of Lansing right now. This is the picture. This is what people know. This is what people are experiencing. And how can we help you? I'm ready to be a stakeholder at the table with you. As a firefighter, I'm familiar with codes. I'm familiar with leveraging, resources and state stuff. As a pastor, I'm familiar with, leveraging volunteer efforts and phone campaigns, whatever stuff needs to happen with those kinds of things. I've got a congregation full of people who want their community to do better. And please let me know. Let me know what we can do. But right now, I think as the elected body, it's rests on you guys. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Can I ask another follow-up question?
Yes.
So is our only enforcement position 12536? Is that our,
I don't know that off the top. I am looking at chapter 75. I'm not looking at, you said 125.
I'm just looking for the enforcement provisions. You're looking at 75?
That's the, 75 is the building and fire code that is enforced by Mike. It's a New York State building and fire code.
Like the New York State code, not the village code.
Well, it's enacted within the village, but it's based on the New York State building code.
Do we have a 75?
I have a 75. Fire prevention and building construction, chapter 75.
After 75. Okay, so what's the enforcement position? Oh, 16?
Yes.
So this is for like like a model code.
Yes.
Based on New York State code.
Almost every municipality has the same code.
Is it worth thinking about municipalities that have taken more strenuous line and whether or not we want to make adaption, something that's like specific to violations by a single perpetrator, not perpetrator, landlord?
If my memory serves me correctly, I do believe Mike sent me an email recently that we are looking to revamp. I believe it's this section. I'm not positive,
Okay,
but he sent me an email about 2 weeks ago that we're gonna look to revamp.
yeah, I mean, that would also
Code
be,
enforcement.
in particular with repeated violations and heavier fines. And I think, again, that would be towards getting the landlord to the table, towards making some changes. I mean, we're not gonna solve homelessness, right? But we could maybe get the apartment next door cleaned up, and that would maybe shift the atmosphere. I think that's probably our best way
I
forward.
think that's a good start. I will also add, one of my most recent deputy conversations, dealing with that encampment, he made the observation, if they don't clean this up, I can call the DEC and we can pursue illegal dumping charges. So I don't know if that's code enforcement option. That's new information to me. That Mike could bring in the DEC, take a walk around the dumpsters and the church's hedges there. And a DEC citation might get action done that you cannot exercise necessarily as a municipality here.
Good idea.
That might be an escalation step that we could add.
If you would relay that to Mike, is he could make that phone call tomorrow and walk the DEC through the mess. And that may be a very viable option that way.
Ronnie, can you put maybe something on the agenda for next month to get a status update on if this is the code that we're trying to make changes, if Mike's already thinking about it?
Yes, yeah, we can do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Can you contact the health department? Because I would think if there's garbage lying around and needles especially.
Believe it or not, I did, and they said we have no teeth.
And I tried to contact them about that issue and I didn't get a response.
Yeah, my chat was with them before COVID, and they're still a little overwhelmed. But no, I asked them, they said we have no teeth. I contacted Tompkins County Waste because this is an abuse of that. And they said, yes, sorry, we have no teeth. It seems like everybody's like, yeah, this is really too bad. And the answer is, and we have no teeth. And so I'm wondering if the teeth that nobody was telling me about might be what the deputy mentioned with the DEC would be the entity that actually has teeth on this. So that was new information. May I pass it on?
That's a possibility. It's worth pursuing anyway, but yes, we can add a topic to our next meeting. I think it's August 1st for trustees. We can get Mike to come in and give us an update, a status of citations and code rewriting.
I do have one concern, children. Is there a way, is there an entity that has teeth with regard to safety for children and families? And you mentioned Bible school. And I'm assuming throughout the year, children play outside. And as you stated, you know, enjoying the outdoor educational, recreational spaces on your property, and you're encouraging community, and that's a way to create it. And obviously, I'm sure if I had little ones at this point, I would want them playing outside.
Yeah, at the moment, I've got at least 2 trash nests that need to be cleaned up on the perimeter of the church's property. I just haven't had time.
And it's also people that just could join the children and play, and you certainly don't want.
And I want them to be safe there, you know, and there's a liability for the church, of course. You know, one of the sheriffs said, you know, maybe your answer is just put a no trespassing sign all the way around. And then if any of these guys are here, we can bust them for that. And I'm like, not acceptable. The other 99% of the people, I want to be able to come through here and enjoy the space.
That's, I think my concern is a municipality.
There's nothing that has teeth on something like this. Maybe, I'm not even aware of anything that has teeth on something like this. If people were leaving needles on a school ground or in a city park.
Well, still the no trespassing signs.
Yeah, which then says the other 99% of the people, you know, I want kids to come and ride bikes in my parking lot. The no trespassing sign says no. You know, I can't discriminate the sign. It's either anybody or nobody. And I happen to I'll take everybody, but this element, you know, it is a problem.
Right.
My last cleanup of the stuff stowed, stolen, so on and so forth around the property, we've got one of those mid-high dumpsters that's about the size of the table here on the taller, you know what I'm talking about. And I filled one half full of stuff dumped, stashed, stolen merchandise, the kind of things that Kip referred. That people were trying to use to hide on the property there, old sleeping bags, bedding, people overnighting, trying to hide out. This is the kind of stuff that it's become.
Thank you both. And I will keep you informed as things progress and we'll see where it goes. At this point, I can't promise anything, but as we get more clarification, people that we contact, then I will forward that on to you. And obviously, if you have more questions, you're both free to call me and talk. And at some point, Kip, and Steve, I would like to come out and just walk through the properties and you can show me the stuff. And just so I can see it with my own eyes. It just helps me describe to someone else rather than being
Sure.
third party to it.
I would say ASAP, but I have a conference to leave for tomorrow morning, back Friday, so.
I will work that out with you.
Yes.
I will work that out with you.
Here's, I'll leave you, send it down.
Thank you.
My cell and personal email are on the back side. The front side works too.
I'll find you one way or the other. And you know where I am, so,
You know where I live now.
okay, thank you. Thank you both.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Next item on our agenda tonight. Sorry. I will move that we close the public comment period.
I second.
Thank you, Susan. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The next topic is to approve our minutes from June 6th and 16th.
They have to be done separate because Jeff and Pat were not present at the 6th. So everyone can vote for the 6th.
Okay, everyone. Okay, I will move that we approve.
Yeah, you'll need those.
Thanks again. I will move that we approve the June 6th draft, June 6th minutes.
I'll second.
Pat seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. I will also move that we approve the draft June 16th minutes, 2022. And everyone but Pat and Jeff can vote. All those in favor say, no discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Second.
Oh, no, sorry. Susan's second. Okay, sorry. No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thanks a lot.
You have to abstain, don't we?
Yes.
And two extensions.
To abstain.
The next topic is to consider proposed local law E 2022 Village of Lansing records, public access to set public and access to records. So set a public hearing for at our August 1st, 2022 meeting. Jody, give us a brief, you told me.
So I went through this chapter and updated like the location. It said Ithaca or Lansing, and we're actually mailing addresses Ithaca. I correct the office hours, added the fees for copies over 11 by 17, added the mayor as an appeal officer. So like when we first approved the code, they're like, well, no, let's not approve it yet because we have other changes. Finally, they said, approve it, and then you just make changes as you go along. So that's what we did. Well, I went to chapter 105, which is the second section I can do, and I've done it. So, yes, it just has, when we found out when we had FOIL requests that we needed an appeal officer, that was never in. So we incorporated that. And then, Natalie went through and gave extra things language that is necessary to clarify. So that is what this law is doing.
Thank you, Jody, and thank you, Natalie, for that update. Did anyone have any issues or discussion about that particular change? Okay, then I will move that we set a public hearing for August 1st, 2022, 7:35 PM to consider proposed local law E 2022 Village of Lansing records, public access to. I need a second for that.
Second.
Susan seconds. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, it's approved. So August 1st. Okay, the next topic is budget transfer and encumbrances, and Jody has provided that within the packet for tonight.
Yes, in your packet is the updated final version. There were a couple of things that still needed to be worked out after the last set of vouchers and finding out some final expenditures that the highway department was going to need. So in front of you is
Everything. What changed between the original, anything that, like I had glanced through it originally, but
yes, I can tell you exactly because I wrote it down.
thank you.
The very first one went from 20,000, 19,000. We got the invoice for the new fence. So that
Okay,
changed.
drop it.
That's also an
Okay.
encumbrance too, because it
Okay.
came, because of the timing of it.
See,
The other change was for the storm sewer. I had to take into account all of the things that were going to be, have been spent after the 31st and the plus encumbrances. So that changed. And then the Warren Road, Brown Road contract under encumbrances, the very last item. That includes the change order. We don't have an official change order yet, but it's, John thinks that the change order is gonna be around 40,000. So that was included in the encumbrance too.
okay.
So,
Didn't he originally estimate 20,000?
well, then
Probably got more information.
Thursday afternoon, he sent me a
Okay,
thing that said 40,000.
okay,
And then today he sent me one that said around 29,000. So we're gonna stick with 40 because I think there is actually gonna be 2 change orders.
okay,
So we'll just stick with that. And then obviously whatever you don't spend just goes into your fund balance.
right. Give everyone a chance. Do you have any questions about the numbers? I like the 2-cent changes.
It's all a rounding thing.
Yeah, I know. All right. So can we approve this package in toto?
Yes.
Okay,
So the resolution to be approved, the budget transfers and encumbrances for 2021, 22, be it resolved to transfer, and then it'll be that list.
Okay.
Just cut and paste in there.
okay. I will move that resolution.
I'll
Please.
second.
Susan seconds. Is there any discussion? Seeing or hearing none, I ask for a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous, Jody. Thank you for all that work. Okay, the next topic is to consider the Verizon Gross Receipts Tax Audit Recovery Settlement Agreement. Authorize me to sign that. You had a chance to look at that?
Yes, I looked at it.
Everything looks good,
She
right?
negotiated. the
I thought
agreement,
so.
So.
I thought-
Changes and then make the changes.
Okay, good. I remember it coming through originally and we asked you to. I just wanted to be sure. So that's good. Did anyone have any questions about this recovery settlement? This is a one-time $2,500, right? Okay. We can't tell anyone about it.
Are we bound to confidentiality?
We're bound to confidentiality.
Oh,
So
yes. Not admissible as evidence.
it's not admissible as evidence and we're not supposed to tell anyone, but we will be receiving $2,500 to make up for past errors through December 31st of, was it 2021?
Yes.
2021. Any discussion or questions? I will move that we consider this, we pass this resolution to consider this settlement and authorize me to sign it. I need a second.
I second.
Susan seconds. No discussion. All those in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, it passes. The Consider 2022 water system improvement project. That is off the agenda for tonight. We did not get an official change order yet, so that will probably be on our next meeting, hopefully. So the next available topic is to waive the 30-day waiting period for the Ithaca Coffee Company per New York State Liquor Authority. When was,
So the Ithaca Coffee Company intends to apply for a change in their liquor license. They currently have a tavern license, so they can serve beer and wine. But they would like to expand their license to include liquor. So Julie Crowley has requested that the trustees waive the 30-day waiting period for the Ithaca Coffee Company. And this is just New York State Liquor Authority, if, you know, that gives you a chance if you've had issues with them before, but.
yeah, we haven't had any issues.
I believe we just did this for the place out in the.
Yes.
Yeah,
The only question is, yeah, that we just said, what did we issue it? We waived it last time. Yeah, okay.
does anyone have a problem with this or questions about it? I know. It'd be interesting to see what they start serving there.
Cocktails.
It'll be exciting.
It's gonna be fancy cocktails, like everybody wants.
So I will move that we waive the 30-day waiting period for the Ithaca Coffee Company.
I'll second.
Thank you, Pat, and I appreciate it. There's no discussion. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. For mayor's comments, my comments tonight are basically going back to the public comment discussions. We can start doing our best to resolve this problem, and it's a problem that really needs to be resolved. I wish I knew how. There's so many pieces in this, and so much, so many laws that regulate what you can and cannot do. It's a nightmare. It's a mare's nest, basically. So we can proceed. We will take tiny steps and see what we can do and get some voices involved at the state level, which is really, I think, where most of the changes are going to have to happen. The county is like us. They're just at a higher level of what they can and cannot do. They have more services available as far as human service, health and human services, health department, et cetera. So they might be able to help somewhat, but we're all constrained by state and federal laws. So we have to be careful. They won't hurt to get more information and provide it, but anything we can do to help solve this problem. I don't like to see it in our village. My larger concern and what really concerns me is the fact that the homelessness and the crime is just escalating everywhere right now. It's not just us, but we'll work on and try to solve our small piece. And Carolyn, you asked good questions. If any of you have suggestions for me, please let me know by email or give me a call. And I will get the process started through Deborah and the state side. I've got notes here to, let me go back here. I'm going to try to get some meeting with state reps, the Tompkins County Sheriff's Department. I would like to get Derek involved, perhaps have him come in and talk with us also. Apparently his deputies have an opinion about the village. Well, opinions aren't great if you can't help us with a solution. We need solutions, not opinions. And the county legislators. Is there anyone else? Well, that's not exactly all. Kip and Steve Felker, I'll keep involved. I'm going to check on, I'll check with Mike about DEC citations. My problem with the DEC, they are bureaucratic and they're not quick to respond. So, but if we get the right state person involved, we might get some support from the DEC too. And then health department, I mentioned Health and Human Services, and anyone else through the county that might share in this discussion. If we don't have a quorum, I think that we could probably do a lot of this remotely, which would be beneficial. We could get maybe faster results. So if any of you want to be on this, I can only have one other person on at a time. If you want to rotate or if someone wants to volunteer to work on it with me, don't have to do that tonight. wait till we get down the road, see what's going to happen, and then we can talk about it a little bit more. Maybe by August 1st, we'll have some more information and we'll get started.
I would volunteer to be part of the code, looking at our village's code and seeing if there's something we can do there. Because for me, I think, again, we're not gonna solve homelessness. It's a tiny village of 3,000 people, but can we enforce our own codes? And if we can't, because we're tying our own hands with only saying it's $250 fine, and you have this many days to comply, and if there's something we can do there, and we can at least clean up the property next door.
Right.
That's our small part is what I see is what we could do.
Okay.
Ronnie,
Yes, Lisa.
I was going to suggest exactly what Carolyn said is, we do have, obviously he came to our planning board last week.
Right.
And so I've been thinking about this. I haven't spoken to anybody else, but I think too, that there has got to be some way that we can add some pressure to situations like this. And we haven't looked at our code in this regard for 15 years or more, 20 years, I forget exactly. So it's time to look at this. I think, a lot of this is, money speaks, you pressure them, and perhaps it's how often we cite someone. I mean, there's got to be something that we can do at our end. There just has to be something. If you would like the planning board to look at that, I think you might want to let us know that.
Yeah, that'd be great, actually.
I think,
Planning board wants to look
I
at it.
think this is good, Carolyn. Thank you. And thank you, Lisa. Let's do this fast. I mean, as fast as we can. I mean, we don't want to do it so fast it's full of mistakes, but let's try to research this and get it done quickly, because the sooner the better. At least we'll start giving ourselves some baby teeth in this issue. And so let's.
Something we could ask like NICOM about, like municipalities that have taken a stronger tone with their code. Should we start with them and ask them?
Suggestions.
Yes, you can contact NICOM when you're with the village, and they will give you other case laws or examples of what other municipalities have done. You just call and you tell them what your concern is, and they're like, okay, I'll send you stuff. So
There is also the Southern Tier Building Officials Association that Mike's a member of. There might be people within that association that have dealt with something like this, and we might be able to get some information through them. So.
Also, the penalty is not just $250, it's $250 a day
Yeah, I saw that, but it seems like
per violation.
feeling like it's not working. It's not.
It's a matter of
strong enough.
compliance and to the degree that can comply. Dryden's facing the exact same thing. It's very difficult to get these.
And what does their code say? Does it say anything?
It's the exact same.
Yeah, so maybe there's someone who's figured out a way that the language in their code is better at getting a landlord to be more aggressive in keeping their property clean. The dumpster thing, for example, like, why can't we take care of that?
Well, I thought that we had. I thought that Mike had taken care of that. They supposedly are on a twice weekly cycle with garbage pickup now.
Okay, so maybe that's resolved. That would be great. That seems like a low hanging fruit is the dumpster.
I know it was for a while because Mike reported back on it being picked up pretty regularly. When I drive by, sometimes it's full, but it's not overflowing.
Okay, that's good. That's good to hear.
It's a little thing,
Yeah.
but that's something. But no, I agree. So Carolyn, you and I and Mike will kind of put our heads together
Okay.
and see where we can go. If I'm not doing it fast enough, if I get tangled up in something, feel free
A
to,
lot that you do.
just feel free to take charge and let me know how I can catch up.
I'd be happy to jump in if things get dicey.
Okay.
And
Well, do you want to do the other portion of it, which was helping Ronnie with the meetings?
Sure.
You're
I
welcome.
can help you with that.
Okay, well, I'll get information from all of you, but for the actual meetings, if we do it by remote, I'd rather not have a quorum there, so only one of you can.
Oh, well, we can alternate.
But you can alternate, yeah, and we can
I
share.
think it shows cohesiveness within this group, that we are functioning
Mhm.
together. I don't know, but whatever.
No.
Put me to work.
That's exactly right. So those are my comments for tonight.
I'll just throw in there, I know Mike Pitchell very well, so I haven't spoken to him since. It's been a while, but I know him quite well.
This is the lawyer?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm not,
Would you feel comfortable asking him for a meeting?
I have no problems approaching him on something like that.
Okay,
Whether he'll do it or not is another thing. If he, I know Mike, so.
right.
But wouldn't it be good to have it on the record that he chose not to accept your invitation? Perhaps in the future, it might be useful.
Rather he accepts it. Let's
I rather.
make him an
we-
offer he can't refuse.
Well,
If I may jump in,
Yeah.
you know, I think the offer needs to be made.
try honey first.
Let him
Right.
decline.
Now, so here's a discussion. Should that meeting be a nighttime meeting or should it be at our staff meeting?
I think it should be a nighttime meeting so the public can come.
Yeah.
We can always get our staff to come too, but I
Okay,
think it would be easier for people to come if they came
okay,
at night.
okay. That's what I was
And
wondering.
it's a step in the right direction.
Well, pitch it as collaborative, like we want to have a collaborative meeting before we have to go towards changing our code and whatnot.
Right.
This is a collaborative problem that we want your input,
Right.
you know.
And Jeff, the thing that you'll be able to do after probably sometime tomorrow is you can ask him to watch our video online. Just watch our public comments at the beginning, to get a feel for how his neighbors are suffering before he comes in. So anyway, I have nothing else for tonight. I'm just, anyway, I appreciate all of you contributing and wanting to step up and help too. This is something we'll just have to work on. Really do appreciate it. So, thank you very much. Any other discussion around the table?
Well, I think the other thing we should keep our eye on too is the homeless situation.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's getting out of control.
Yeah.
I
A
know.
lot of times it starts there and then
Because you just walk around by those new buildings, Alter and, not Alter, Aldi's and that.
Yeah.
There are people hanging out with trolleys and
yes,
garbage everywhere.
it's all part of the same problem.
So I think that's something I don't know. Again, I think, as you say, our hands are tied because it's a state thing. But I would think we could do something, or even pressure the hotel people, you know, the owners of the Econo Lodge, because they're housed there.
Right.
And did they end up being housed at they ever got the citations cleared up? What's the one on the corner, the Trip Motel?
Trip, I have.
Because I-
no
They're not
idea.
open.
They're not open. Because rumor had it that that was the second hotel they were going to put the
Yeah,
homeless in.
that was rumor
They're
that I
not
heard
open
too.
yet.
They're not
Health
open
department
yet.
is told it's not open yet.
They have a long way to go, I think, before they'll
They
be
had a
allowed
lot-
to.
Mike said they had a lot of citations.
Yeah.
against them.
Yeah, it's deteriorated pretty badly.
Yeah.
No, that's a good point.
It's a great property. I can't believe someone hasn't bought it and refurbished it.
Even just for a tear down.
Also,
No, it's a tear down.
So much wrong with.
No, that's what I meant. Like just
Yeah.
taking the property and put something there. It's like it's a
Sell
great location.
Sledgehammers and people go there.
Right.
Should be-
Make a profit.
You know what it's like.
Before you even start.
It's so horrible.
I know. Anything else? Natalie, you have anything for us tonight? You haven't solved all these problems before our meeting's over? You're taking notes over there.
I have notes about
Yeah,
it.
good. Yeah, but we're obviously, we're gonna have to get you involved.
Yeah.
You gotta keep us legal. You and Jody have to keep us out of jail. You have anything for us tonight?
Because is it worse, you know, at one of these meetings, if we can get the people to come, even if it's soon, can we invite the deputies? Some, but the police, because they should know what's going on.
Yeah,
what's happening.
I think that we probably can.
Or the chief.
I have a fairly good relationship with Derek, and I will talk with him about it. He might be willing to come in as the sheriff. And if he can't, he would send in.
Because I think if people saw that we are trying to do something, it would be better for us. You know, they'll think that we're listening, which we are.
I think for any of the meetings where we are going to invite guests and they're going to be there, we should make a special invitation to Kip and Steve and just let them know that their neighbors can come in too.
I'd like to have his email address
I'm sorry?
on this card, his email address.
Okay. Yes, it is there.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'll send it to you. Or
All right,
did you
we'll
already get?
just write it down.
I can take a picture. Never mind. All right.
Motion to adjourn?
I need a motion to adjourn. Let someone else move that tonight.
I so move.
Okay, Susan, second.
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 Jeff. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
I.
Aye, we're adjourned. Good night, Lisa. Say hi to Robert.
I.
Night.
Thanks, everyone.